Imagine you are standing in the hot breath of a crowd that smells of ale, onions, and anticipation. The square is a bowl of faces, roofs and windows brim, with people who have climbed for a better view, as if salvation could be seen more clearly from eaves and gutters. In the center, a platform of fresh planked wood, sticky with sawdust and something darker. Upon it waits a wheel taller than any man you have ever known, its rim iron banded, its spokes thick as a forearm, its shadow falling like a sundial across the scaffold. The wheel looks almost innocent from a distance, like a miller's tool that lost its way, but you can smell the iron. You can smell the future. The bell strikes the hour. The executioner steps forward, leather apron, arms like quarried stone, a hammer polished by the fists of those who used it before him. A clerk in a black hat unrolls a parchment whose crackle carries through the hush. On the card at the foot of the platform lies the man they brought at dawn. His mouth is bound with a strap, his eyes unbound and enormous. He is called robber, perhaps murderer, perhaps rebel, perhaps merely inconvenient. The law will decide what to call him. The wheel will decide what he becomes. Someone near you whispers, "It's justice." Someone behind you answers, "It's a lesson." But when the man is dragged onto the planks, when the ropes bite his ankles and wrists, and the executioner sets the hammer across his shoulder like a priest settling a cross, you understand the real word for it. It is a show. The first blow lands with a sound you will never forget. Not just the crack of bone, but a wet, thick afternote, as if the world itself winced. The second blow is worse because you're listening for it. He cannot help the howl that rips out of him. And yet, a miracle of will or rage, he does not beg. The executioner works by measure. Forearm, shin, forearm, thigh. Not the skull, not the chest. Not yet. The body must be broken, but not ended. The hammer is not a blade. This is not mercy's work. This is geometry, a calculus of pain. Strike at such an angle that the limb collapses, but the heart keeps going. You watch the mathematics of cruelty performed with artisan care. When the limbs are ruined into angles, the wheel is rolled and the man is woven into it, threaded through its spokes like a rope through a pulley. Arms and legs braided into wood. His spine is a bow. His face is the face of someone holding a scream between his teeth. The executioner nods. Ropes creak. The wheel rises. He rises with it. Higher, higher, until the shadow of his suffering rakes across 100 uplifted faces. There are children on their fathers' shoulders. There are vendors selling hot chestnuts. There are prayers like moths, brief and useless. You feel a pressure in your throat. It's not pity alone, though pity is there. It's the sensation of looking into a mirror you didn't ask to hold. The wheel is not just a machine. It is a mask the city wears to show itself to itself. The rulers intend fear. But what they ignite sometimes is fire. If you like uncovering the hidden truths of history, click like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. And remember, this story, though buried in the past, will haunt you long after you finish listening. You think this cruelty must be rare, a perversion, a thing done in wicked corners. It is not rare. It is policy. In the German lands, they call it Radern, to wheel a body, and law codes carve its grammar into ink and oak. In the 13th century, the Saxon Spiegel sets out who deserves the wheel. Murderers by the road, highwaymen, band leaders whose hands make the countryside bleed. In the 16th century, Emperor Charles V's Constitutio Criminalis Carolina refines it still. Crimes against order shall be answered by breaking the body in ordered stages, life prolonged so that terror may be taught. What begins as vengeance becomes bureaucracy. The iron rim becomes a paragraph. France learns its own choreography, La Roue. Not only death, but display. A craftsman of punishments can tell you variations the way a baker lists breads. Breaking before death, breaking after death. Garroting on the hub to end it swiftly, or knotting sinew and staying the neck to lengthen the lesson. Sometimes the spokes are spiked. Sometimes the wheel is set upon a pole like a banner of bones. In both realms, the goal is not merely to kill. It is to write with a body upon the sky. You could call it justice. You could call it theater. In the squares of Mainz and Paris, of Cologne and Rouen, the scaffold becomes a stage, and the executioner a stagehand whose cue is pain. Students elbow for a better look. Bakers close their shutters early. Priests mutter about sin as they drift closer with everyone else. People bring bread, their own children, their own judgments. The city becomes a throat that swallows what it pretends to despise. You see lovers laughing. You see widows crossing themselves. You see a magistrate whose face never changes, like a monument wearing a mask. The paradox arrives on iron feet. The wheel is meant to erase the man's name, his courage, the rumor that he ever mattered. Yet crowds have long memories in places where paper is rare. Too much cruelty brews its own countermagic. You will learn the names later, whispered with a heat that officials cannot legislate cool. There was a weaver's daughter who bit the executioner's thumb and sang a pilgrim's hymn until her jaw dislocated. There was a highway captain who spat his confession onto the magistrate's shoes and told his comrades, "Do not cry for me. Remember me." There was a werewolf in Bedburg, Peter Stumpf, whose will became a bonfire of rumor, horror flowering into legend. In Bavaria, a bandit they call the Hyacil was broken into story, a folk hero whose bones turned to ballads the authorities could not silence. And in Toulouse, centuries later, a Calvinist merchant named Jean Colas would meet the wheel, and in meeting it, appoint a philosopher named Voltaire as his avenger. But that comes after. For now, you stand in the square and watch how fear is manufactured. The authorities understand rhythm better than mercy. The spectacle begins at dawn because body and city are weakest then. The clerk reads slowly, so the name is hammered into ears like a nail. The wheel is rolled into place with a deliberate squeal, so people turn their heads as if called by a church bell. The prisoner is made to look at the crowd. Look at each other, the ritual commands. See what happens to those who break the peace. Nothing is unintended. Even a pause before the first blow is a kind of speech. The silence says, the state does not merely punish, it composes. You tell yourself to look away. You don't. You catalog details because you are ashamed and because you are alive. How the executioner wets his palms. How the crowd shifts its weight as if it shares one body. How the condemned meets the executioner's eyes and then looks at the sky, a sky that is too blue for this. A woman near you sobs in her apron. A boy near her is silent in a way that is not ordinary. The boy stares with the focused quiet of someone choosing a path. Is it obedience? Is it vengeance? The wheel whispers that such choices are mirrors. You look, the mirror looks back. Spectacle, says the magistrate to a colleague as they descend the scaffold steps, keeps the road safe. He is not wrong. The wheel is a fence made of dread. Robbers think twice when they picture their own limbs laced to spokes, their own breath gathered by crows. Travelers bless the posts at the city gate and pretend not to see the black windmills of bone. For a time, order expands like a shadow in summer. But fear is the kind of fire that jumps its hearth. It warms authority. It also lights the faces of those who will one day burn the house down. A cracked rib becomes a legend becomes a banner becomes a crowd that does not fit in squares. You hear the first seeds of a song somewhere. Low, not yet daring melody. The tune's words climb onto rumor's back and trot down alleys that magistrates never enter. You do not catch every phrase, but you hear the refrain. He would not cry. He would not kneel. You think of saints and their wheels. Catherine, who, legend says, snapped the spikes with prayer, the device turning against itself, a serpent that bit its tail. The church borrowed the symbol and bleached it, the wheel as halo, the broken spoke as proof of heaven's veto. But the street keeps its own saints, and their halos are iron bands. The more the state insists the wheel is a mirror that shows only guilt, the more the crowd learns to see a different reflection, defiance with a human face. Night comes. Torches hiss. The wheel stands like an eclipse nailed to a pole. The man has not died yet. He will not die for hours. He will count the stars with lucid hatred. He will hear dogs bark and think of childhood. He will imagine a door he cannot open, and beyond it bread, and beyond that, someone who would have said his name softly. He will pray and unsay his prayer. He will leave his final breath in the mouth of the wind. You will go home and wash your hands twice and still smell iron. You will wake at midnight to the sound of your own heart and wonder what it is that's pounding. You will say the word justice like a charm. It will not help. In the morning, the wheel will be the first thing people see as they pass the gate, a compass that points to fear. Crows will hop and argue, small black jurists in feather gowns. Children will ask questions their mothers do not answer. A baker will cross himself and then tell 3 customers what he saw, each telling making the man on the wheel a little larger, a little brighter, as if the spokes themselves are candles fed by breath. By noon, the story will be taller than the pole. And this is only the beginning. For every blow of that hammer, there is a law that tutored the arm to swing. For every raised wheel, there is a ruler's reasoning, a sermon in the cathedral of power. Order is mercy, cruelty is devotion, terror is love in armor. In the chapters ahead, you will walk the corridors where those sermons were written. You will read the ink that inventoried pain. You will meet the rebels, the saints, and the so-called monsters whose bodies became mirrors for 1,000 watching eyes. You will stand at other scaffolds, in other cities, and learn why some deaths grew until they were too big to bury. For now, remember the square. Remember the wheel's slow turn as it is hoisted, the way wood speaks to rope, the way rope speaks to bone, the way bone speaks to blood. Remember how the crowd leaned forward as one creature and then, when it was done, scattered like starlings, each person wearing a different mask of certainty. Remember how you went home and sat in the dark and felt the echo of the hammer in your chest. The wheel was meant to make forgetting easy. Instead, it learned how to make memory immortal.